Have you ever just looked at the stock market or maybe the housing market and thought to yourself, this makes absolutely no sense, right? One day a stock is just soaring, the next it's in a free fall, and the prices, they just seem totally disconnected from reality. Well, it turns out there's a surprisingly simple reason for all this madness, and it all comes down to the different games people are playing. Let's break it down.
So to get our heads around this, let's start with a really simple question that gets right to the heart of the issue. What is the right price for a house? I mean, is there just one single rational number? Well, the answer, of course, is that it totally depends on who's asking. For a family that's looking for a place to put down roots for the next 30 years, the right price is based on stuff like, school districts, the neighborhood, their budget. But for a house flipper, they're playing a completely different game. They care about one thing and one thing only. Can I sell this for more in the next 3 months? The price they're willing to pay is all about short-term market hype, not long-term livability.
And this gets us to our first big idea. For any single asset, there isn't just one rational price. There are actually many.
So, here's the bottom line. A price that looks completely insane to one person can be perfectly logical for somebody else. They're not crazy. They're just playing a different game with a different set of rules and a totally different finish line.
To really get a handle on this, let's use a simple metaphor that honestly explains just about everything when it comes to market bubbles and crashes. We're going to call it the sprinter versus the marathoner.
Okay, so picture a running track. On that track, you've got two very different athletes. They're on the same field, they're using the same lanes, but believe me, they are absolutely not in the same competition.
First up, you have the marathoner. This is your classic long-term investor. Their goal is slow and steady growth over decades. They're focused on the real, fundamental value of a company, its profits, its leadership, where it's going to be in the economy 30 years from now. They are built for endurance.
And then you have the sprinter. This is the short-term trader. Their goal is to make a quick profit, sometimes in a matter of hours or even minutes. They couldn't care less about 30-year economic forecasts. They care about today's momentum. Which way is the price moving? Right now.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. The way these two runners interact, that's the very thing that creates market bubbles.
It almost always happens in this predictable cycle. First, an asset starts gaining some momentum, right? The price goes up day after day. This attracts the sprinters, the short-term traders who smell an opportunity for a quick buck. As more and more sprinters pile in, the entire market's focus shifts from long-term value to short-term gains. And this is the critical moment. The price completely disconnects from what the asset is actually worth in the long run.
We've seen this movie before, time and time again. Let's just take a quick look at the dot-com bubble back in the late 90s.
Get this. During that bubble, the average holding period for a mutual fund wasn't decades or even years. It was just 8 months. The whole market had basically become a stadium full of sprinters, all just betting on what would happen in the next few weeks, not the next few decades.
Or think about something a little more recent, a little closer to home, the housing bubble in the mid-2000s. That wasn't just about families buying homes to live in.
I mean, check out this fact, it's pretty stunning. The number of homes being flipped, meaning bought and sold again within just 12 months, it increased 5-fold during the bubble. The market wasn't dominated by marathoners finding a place to live, it was completely overrun by sprinters looking to make a fast profit.
So the real danger here isn't that these two different games exist. The danger is when the players themselves get confused about which game they're supposed to be playing.
Imagine you're a marathoner, a long-term investor, and it's 1999. You see Cisco stock trading at a price so high that it literally implies the company would one day be bigger than the entire US economy. Your marathoner brain is screaming, that's impossible. But then you look around and all the sprinters are buying, and the price just keeps going up. It's so easy to start thinking, wow, maybe they know something I don't.
And that thought, right there, that is a disaster in the making. That's the moment a marathoner abandons their own race strategy to try and copy the sprint. This really just lays it all out, doesn't it? For the sprinter, paying $60 for Cisco stock was a totally reasonable bet if they thought they could sell it for $61 before the end of the day. But for the marathoner, who planned to hold it for 20 years, that same $60 price was a catastrophic, devastating entry point. Same asset, same price, but two completely different outcomes depending on the game you're playing.
So, this all brings us to the most important question of all. It's not about what the market is doing. It's about what you are doing. What game are you playing?
And you know what? This idea goes way beyond just the stock market. Think about our personal spending. So much of it is driven by just looking at what other people are doing, right? We see a young lawyer buying these expensive suits and think, hey, maybe I should too. But for them, that suit is an investment in their career. For a writer who works from home, it's just an expensive piece of clothing. We're taking our cues from someone who's playing a totally different life game.
The only way to avoid these traps, whether it's in investing or just in life, is to be incredibly clear about your own goals. So the very first step is to define your own mission.
So how do you protect yourself? Well, it's pretty simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. First, just write down your mission. What are your financial goals? What's your time horizon? Second, really know that time horizon. Are you a marathoner investing for the next 30 years? Or are you a sprinter trading for the next 30 days? Be honest about it. And third, and this is the most important one, learn to ignore the other players. Once you know your race, don't get distracted by the people on the track who are running a completely different one.
So the next time you look at the market and it all seems irrational, just remember the track. It's not one race. It's a bunch of different races all happening at the same time. The only question that really matters is the one you have to ask yourself. You're on the track. What race are you running?